Hello everyone, welcome to LexTalk World Talk Show presented by Click of Your Creators. Today we have Mr. Premjit Singh with us. Mr. Singh is a dual qualified lawyer with over 10 years of experience in commercial and corporate law. He specializes and manages high-value cross-border commercial negotiations, M&As, that is mergers and acquisitions, corporate restructuring, new market entry strategy, and entity structuring across Asia Pacific region. Uh, Currently, he is a chief legal officer of Asian venture called Collectius Group. We will, of course, talk about that further in the session. But till then, without further ado, let me introduce you to the man himself. Hi, Mr. Singh. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you very much for having me and for the kind introduction. I'm very well, thank you. And you?
I'm doing brilliant. Thank you very much for asking. And it's our pleasure to actually have you uh, today for the session. Thank you very much for giving some time out. All right. So as I said, without further ado, let me start asking you the question that I already have, and I'm so excited to ask you all of that. First of all, if you can set up a context, if you can tell us about a few key legal projects that you have embarked in your career, that will sort of set up a context for the discussion today.
Sure. That's indeed a very interesting question. I think over the past decade, I've been privileged to lead and participate in various legal projects. Essentially, being exposed to a diversified range of projects have given me the right footing and exposure in corporate legal matters. Just to name a few of the leading projects that I've been involved in, it includes a project with International Finance Corporation, a member of the World Bank, together with Collectius, that launched the first distressed asset recovery platform with USD 60 million investment to address the impacts of COVID-19 on the banking sector and consumer finance in East Asia Pacific. At the same time, IFC also acquired minority equity in Collectius. Another project would involve Japan's largest independent real estate management company, Kinedex Incorporation, together with Amna Raya Berhad, a Malaysian premier trustee company, as well as the oldest wholly owned government entity that entered into a strategic collaboration and acquiring shares of the latter's subsidiary for a total of USD 20 million. Last but not least that I would mention would be a project involving water assets, a restructuring transaction between the federal government of Malaysia and the Selangor state government worth USD 450 million. I was fortunate to discuss matters with senior government officials like the then Attorney General of Malaysia. This will be a summary of the few leading projects that I've embarked on in the past decade.
Brilliant. I mean, that sort of closes down to almost a billion that we are looking at. All right. So you also were a part of a project that was sort of embarked while the pandemic was really active. Across the As an in-house counselor, what do you think? Has the pandemic changed the in-house legal environment?
Absolutely. I think the pandemic changed various things in all environments. Looking back during the early days of COVID-19, rules and regulations across jurisdictions were changing so rapidly to govern the unexpected environment. As businesses put measures in place, including restructuring efforts as their long-term mitigation plans, many legal departments were under stress that possibly never experienced before, given the speed of constant change. But of course, on the positive side, various surveys outcomes found that many in-house teams have been productive and focused during the pandemic with remote working arrangements. The pandemic has also made all of us adopt more technological methods to ensure projects and contracts are in fact on schedule. We have even witnessed courts in various jurisdictions conducting hearings and trials via video conferencing.
That's right. I mean, a lot of things happened, and in my side of the world, also when you see, court hearings happening virtually and giving a ease to access to justice, that brings a sense of transformation, and there are two sides of a coin, So ironically, pandemic also brought some good changes for us as a race. In when I say that there are a lot of changes that happened while pandemic and across, the technology is so rapidly transforming and changing its states from one to another. In the era of legal technology, which is booming right now, what are the platforms, the technology platforms that you are using or introducing?
Well, I think that's a brilliant question. In my perspective, I think the legal technology side of things is a billion-dollar industry. And in fact, it's scaling very quickly in recent years. Again, in my view, it is essential for in-house teams to subscribe to at least e-signature platforms, as well as contract management solutions. There are many vendors in the growing space providing user-friendly platforms. But of course, going digital, it's easier said than done. And it's certainly not an easy exercise with many questions arising, such as which tool or set of tools would suit my needs. Questions arising could also be, does the price make sense? Or how long would it take for me to see returns on these investments? And frequently, we also see that the migration process might be a hassle. And what do I do when I face technical issues, for example? And being lawyers, one of the key questions that come along would be, is it secure in terms of privacy and data laws? That being said, I'm still in the view that in order to remain relevant, we lawyers need to embrace transformation by implementing suitable technological tools. This enables us to achieve more with the same amount of time and resources. Currently, in the department that I lead, we are using DocuSign for e-signatures, and in the implementation phase of our contract management solution with Precisely.
Brilliant. Do you think incorporating technology into legal space is not about understanding or adapting? It's also about infrastructure. I'm not just talking about the developing countries. I'm also talking about the underdeveloped countries or the countries which have just started developing. So what do you think is the issue? Is this just the adaptation of the technology or the infrastructure?
I think that's a good point. The infrastructure certainly comes into play to a large extent, and it goes slightly beyond infrastructure as well. There are various countries, in terms of their legislation, still requires, on a very simple example, it still requires wet signature to a large extent. This then negates the technological solutions that are put in place, for example, e-signatures, to which we still need to print and obtain wet signatures and route it accordingly, which goes back a little bit to a conventional method. That being said, it's still a large opportunity for us to utilize these tools where possible and advocate for the change to come within the jurisdictions that are still very much traditional in that sense.
It's very, very rightly put, Mr. Singh. Thank you very much. All right, let's put it on a lighter note now. Lawyers are very busy. I have friends who are lawyers. I talk to lawyers, such as yourself. And for me, I'm not a lawyer, but still time management is the issue that we all face in our life. And in legal industry, it's most of all. What are the key factors leading to an efficient time management for lawyers in your sense?
As you rightfully put, time management is so essential in everything that we do, generally, day to day. And from my perspective, the three leading factors, summarizes down to this. The first would be project delegation. It is important to be able to delegate projects, and more importantly, delegate well. Oversee the projects without micromanaging. And the second leading factor to effective time management would be to implement a no interruption period. It is important to have a quiet time to concentrate on important matters on a daily basis. So again, from my perspective, I usually set aside a few hours daily to concentrate on such tasks and reply to the unexpected queries outside of the no interruption period. Last but not least, I would categorize to have an efficient time management process is to embrace technology. As we spoke about earlier, legal technology solutions typically assist to reduce hours spent on laborious tasks. And during implementation phase, of course, significant amount of hours and resources is required. However, once implemented, lawyers will have more time to focus on more important assignments. Again, in my view, I think these are the three very important elements that will drive a lawyer's day-to-day activities to be more efficient.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now I'll ask a question. I guess you have answered that to many of your friends. I'm not sure, but I always like to ask these questions to lawyers. What do you do to recharge yourself? Talking about a case, it's so much to talk about to understand, because when we talk about a case, we just see it from a 10,000 feet. But to go deeper in that, it takes a lot of energy of yours. What do you do to recharge yourself?
I think it's very important to identify what distresses one. And for me, what distresses me is my family, particularly my daughter, who's 2 years old now. And just spending time with her, quality time with her, distresses me out. And it's very important, not just for lawyers, but I think for any entrepreneur, businessman, employees, to be able to distress accordingly so we don't burn out.
That is right. I mean, a family, not just a good lawyer, but a good family man. Saying. All right. Last question that I have for you is, in your view, do we anticipate any evolution to the general counsel role and in-house legal departments in the future?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think if you look back over a decade ago, there wasn't much conversations around the need for corporations to have an in-house legal department. Now more than ever, in-house legal role is expanding and is perceived as an expansion to the business function. Therefore, in my view, more legal departments will move away from a traditional reactive lawyer structure to a more strategic business unit in the coming decade. And this, of course, may be facilitated by implementing technology tools and new service delivery tools.
That is right. I guess I had a word 2-3 weeks back with a lawyer, and she said that now legal counsel is also directly or indirectly part of the revenue generation of an organization. Now, the way could be totally different. As I said, could be completely indirect, but they are somewhere or the other also linked to revenue generation for an organization. Brilliantly put, Mr. Singh. We had a great conversation so far. I know our viewers want more from you, so I want them to touch base with you directly to have more understanding about you and about the in-house industry or the legal industry so far. Where can our viewers find you?
Well, I'm available on LinkedIn. A simple search of Premjit Singh will land you on my page. And I'm very happy to connect with anyone to discuss further or even to explore ideas. on how we can grow the space together. And of course, as you mentioned, it has been a privilege being here and speaking to you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, sir. Please don't embarrass me. It's completely my pleasure. And now our viewers, you know where to find Mr. Singh, so you can bombard him with your questions and your concerns, and with him anytime. And let's thank Mr. Singh for this. So thank you so much, Mr. Singh, for sharing such great insights with us. And we look forward to having a chat with you again on some other trending topics over the international legal industry so far. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much once again.
Same here, sir. Same here. And for our viewers, if you like this chat with Mr. Singh, please make sure that you like this video, you share this video, and you also click on that red button that you see to subscribe to Click Away Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do, and you have more coming in from industry leaders like Mr. Premjit Singh. This was Sagar for LexTalk World signing off. Thank you very much.